announced it'll resume military trials at Guantanamo Bay after a 2-year suspension. Let's cross to our Washington, D.C. broadcast center for more.
Stephen, President Obama phrased military tribunals at the prison after taking office in 2009. According to a statement from the U.S. government, though, military commission trials will resume and detainees will have the right to periodic reviews of their cases. The White House is reserving the right to prosecute detainees in U.S. federal courts, though. Legal rights groups have condemned the use of military tribunals at Guantanamo as a violation of human rights. The U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates has made a surprise visit to Afghanistan. While there, he said the U.S. has no interest in permanent military bases in the country. The trip comes as the U.S. continues to plan the withdrawal of its troops from Afghanistan, beginning in some form or another in July. Afghan President Hamid Karzai has said there is a timetable in place for his forces to take over security duties by 2014. But Gates says a deadline does not necessarily mean the end of a U.S. presence in Afghanistan.
With the permission of the Afghan government, the United States, I think, is open to the possibility of having some presence here in terms of training and assistance, perhaps making use of facilities made available to us by the Afghan government.
The governor of the U.S. state of Wisconsin has turned down a call by Democratic senators for a meeting on the state border. Scott Walker dismissed the idea of such a border summit as, quote, ridiculous. Democratic senators left the state, say that a vote on a budget that includes limits to union bargaining rights could not proceed. Wisconsin state workers have been holding ongoing demonstrations in the state capital since February. Police in the Mexican resort city of Acapulco have found 3 severed heads stashed in black plastic bags. A note left at the scene said the beheadings were an act of revenge, citing a dispute over an attempted kidnapping in which a man was shot dead. She's a haunting, hooded figure, an image rooted in Mexico's pre-Christian culture. Santa Muerte, or Saint Death, is venerated by millions of Mexicans to ward off misfortune. And in recent years, sales of Muerta books and statues have jumped. Frank Contreras explains some of the reasons.
Raising prayers to a saint of death. Martin George has built a shrine to her in the living room of his own home. He lights candles and focuses deeply on her skeletal image. Though it may frighten some, for him, it brings comfort in times of despair. In Mexico, the many followers of Santa Muerte are widely considered to be drug traffickers or other criminals. Martin George says there are criminals among all religions and cults. He insists most of Santa Muerte's believers are honest people.
They don't ask her to help them commit robberies. They don't ask for help getting drugs. They ask her to help them get ahead in order to have complete lives. And when it's time to die, to leave behind an inheritance for their family members. For us, that's called a saintly death.
Scholars say this image dates back to pre-Hispanic Mesoamerica. Over the centuries, Santa Muerte has held her place among Mexico's most sacred icons. The country's biggest religious institution, the Catholic Church, does not officially recognize her. Still, she's become so popular with so many people that a cottage industry now produces Santa Muerte statues, candles, necklaces, and anything else believers might need to create an altar in her honor.
I'm inside Mexico's famous Sonora market, where you can buy just about anything, from healing herbs to a love potion, but an increasing number of people are coming to this market to buy items like this one in devotion to the Santa Muerte.
The author of a best-selling book on Santa Muerte says it's no coincidence that an increasing number of people are turning to the death saint, particularly in this difficult time when drug violence appears to be raging out of the Mexican government's control.
People ask her for things the Mexican state should be providing. Those are rights such as housing, justice, employment, and health. And those rights the state should be providing. In that way, you could say Santa Muerte is helping the Mexican state.
And so the cult of the death saint continues to grow, and untold numbers of the faithful cling to the image of this mystical figure, hoping she will help protect them in what are likely to be more difficult times ahead. Frank Contreras, Al Jazeera, Mexico City.
In Ecuador, the older brother of President Rafael Correa has created his own political party and may challenge his brother in the 2013 elections. Fabricio Correa, a conservative, says his leftist brother has lost the confidence of the people since his 2006 election, and he insists many are looking for him to lead instead. But he did stop short of officially declaring his candidacy for president. Army troops in Bolivia are evacuating hundreds in the country's capital following new warnings about mudslides. Last week, 6,000 were left homeless after heavy rain caused a hillside to collapse in a particularly poor part of the capital, La Paz. 1,700 houses were destroyed and 50 killed. The space shuttle Discovery has left from the International Space Station for the final time. It's scheduled to return to Earth on Wednesday and is set to be put in a museum. NASA's two other space shuttles will make their final missions later this year, before the U.S. Space Agency ends the shuttle program entirely in June. And that's all from Washington. Let's return to Imran in Doha.
Thanks, Shihab. Now, Al Jazeera has received pictures that purportedly show Libyan army officers killed for refusing to fire on the rebels. These pictures are from Zintan in western Libya and were sent to us by the opposition. They say the colonel seen here was killed by Gaddafi's forces after refusing to shoot. At least 3 other officers were also said to be killed. More now on one of our other top stories on the News Hour, the new so-called caretaker cabinet in Egypt. There are some new faces in that powerful crowd, but is the difference just skin deep? Well, let's put that to Islam Lutfi, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood's Youth Committee. Of course, the Muslim Brotherhood is Egypt's largest opposition group. Thanks a lot for joining us, Mr. Lutfi. What do you think? Do you recognize that Issam Sharaf and all these other appointees are the right men for the job?
We recognize Dr. Assam till this moment. His history is clean. He is a good technocrat. He take good action when he resigned from Mr. Nazif cabinet 6 years ago, and he has good action also on Syndicate of Engineers. We will put all demonstration and strikes on hold for 2 weeks to give him space to move and to build his cabinet and to take more steps towards reforming the situation in Egypt now. If he do well, we'll keep supporting him. If no, we just support anybody. We will support anybody who will be able to lead Egypt to safe.
Today, Prime Minister Sharaf said, he reiterated that he will stand by all Egypt's international commitments and agreements, including the 1979 Camp David Accords with Israel. Do you agree with that decision?
Yeah, I agree. Egypt, maybe I'm against the agreement or against some terms of it, but by the